But like, hey, that's just me. I hope I'm wrong. I'm usually not, but I hope I'm wrong about it all, and like things go great, and there's a clear winner and a clear loser.
Yeah.
And I certainly have the person I want to win. We all have the person we want to win, and
each side just shakes hands and says, "Good game."
Good game.
After
pats each other on the butt and said, "We'll see you in 4 years."
Next time.
I don't think that's how it's going to go. I think we're in the perfect storm of dismay and despair right now, and division. That's 3. Dismay, division, and despair, 2020.
It sounds like a great, this. Use that for your next sermon.
Okay, I'll go with that.
Anytime all those letters line up like that.
Yeah, what's that called? Acronymosity?
That's it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so we're kind of in this space, and I think it's just we're gonna have a little trigger to it. So, wrong word. A spark.
It's gonna be fun.
A spark to this. So,
So happy end of time.
Yep. Happy last Tuesday.
Of America.
Happy last Tuesday. But seriously, that was seriously. But I just needed a transition for that. As we're thinking about how to do life, and of course I'm a pastor and we work in a church, and we think about how do we make sense of the world? How do we make sense of all this? What does Scripture say? What does God speak? How is God speaking in the world today? Over the last couple of years, I think that I've kind of gotten to a place in my life where Christianity in America just doesn't make sense to me anymore. To me, it is something else. It is not what we read in Scripture. It is not what Jesus came talking about, died for. It's not what the disciples were organizing in Acts.
Mm-hmm.
Not what Paul was talking about in the epistles. This has become something that just doesn't make any sense anymore to me.
Yeah.
It in a large part, and I'm talking big. I'm talking when I say Christianity in America, I mean big, overarching. I don't mean what we think here or what that church practices. I think overarching. And it just doesn't make any sense. I feel like it's lost its sense of direction and purpose. It has lost itself in a lot of ways. It went into a corn maze and it didn't come out.
Still in there.
It's somewhere in there.
Yeah.
By the way, that's the sort of corn maze I want to go to. You better pack your supplies.
You're Camelback with the water.
Yeah.
And
you may be in there for a couple days.
Yep.
So prepare. That's the sort of, where can I find that maze at? Because that's the one I want to go to. And there's challenges in there, and you may not come out okay.
Physical.
Yeah, physical challenges.
You have to get through them.
Yeah. Yeah, I want that sort of maze.
Extreme corn maze.
The extreme corn maze. That'd be a fun reality show for October, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You film people going into this crazy maze. It's like The Greatest Race.
Yeah.
But corn maze.
You're in teams.
Yeah.
You have to figure out clues and
the corn maze is the size of a gigantic cornfield in Iowa, They just take this
acres and acres and acres.
Square mile and make it into a corn maze. Oh my gosh, that's a great TV show. LA producers, if you're watching, give me a call. You can find me on Facebook. Just PM me, direct message me. We'll talk. But Christianity to me, it got lost in the corn maze. It's something else now.
Yeah. It's
trying to find its way out, but all it's doing is thrashing corn at this point.
Yeah.
Of we don't know where we are.
Yeah, it's lost its essence in the culture.
Yeah, it's just lost its essence.
Yeah.
It doesn't. Yeah. To me, Christianity is so much about, okay, I know this is going to be a stretch for you, but to me, Christianity is about debt relief, which it makes no sense, at first blush, right? And you're like, what? That's not about debt relief. It's about Jesus dying for our sins. What is that about? Debt relief. And not only this sort of debt relief that is a spiritual debt relief, but a very practical physical debt relief. Jesus comes talking in Luke 4:18, I've come to proclaim the favorable year of the Lord, which is Jubilee. The whole ministry of Jesus is fundamentally about Jubilee, and Jubilee is about every 50th year, debts are freed, like the land redistribution, debt relief. Like, this is about debt relief. I mean, early in Acts, you're talking about, hey, you're going to sell your land and make sure everybody has something. So you're going to give to people who are in debt. Those who have too much are gonna sell some of what they have in order to provide debt relief, land redistribution. Like, the whole thing is about debt relief, land redistribution, but like physical and social. So when I'm indebted, so I have a lower place in society, and society has thrown a debt on me because of something about me or my lot in life. Christianity then is going to say, no, you're going to be an equal to us here. We're going to create a system of equality in our communities so that we relieve the debt that you have on, like, society has given you.
Yeah.
Whole thing, debt relief. I would like to write a book on this one day, but feel like I need a little bit stronger sense of economics to make like a better argument about it. But maybe I'll work on that and write the book.
I think it's an interesting lens to see it through, and definitely when you start seeing it through that lens, a lot of stuff starts to make sense that maybe didn't before. But then the cultural Christianity that you might be experiencing or grew up in stops making sense.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
Like this Christianity makes, like, to me, Christianity in America is about dominant culture. Yeah. And so it makes dominant culture feel good, Christianity in America. When you go to church, if you're in dominant culture, you feel good about this sort of Christianity that's being proclaimed to you from your church. That should tell us that it's completely off. Because if you were in dominant culture around Jesus, you would have been like, I don't like this guy.
Yeah.
We want to kill him. He's threatening everything about our dominant culture. He's threatening to unbalance everything. We got to get rid of this guy. If you were the disciples, if you were in dominant culture around this, we don't like those guys. We don't like that movement.
Yeah.
They're threatening to us. But yet now in America, we empower dominant culture. I was thinking a lot about and feeling for my, our LGBTQ friends who now feel under threat that the new Supreme Court Justice Amy Barron Cohen, I think I want to name her like the guy,
ABC,
the comedian,
or ACB,
whatever. I mean, she's not a conservative; she's a fundamentalist.
Yeah.
And so, I think that's the brand of Christianity we have in America. We got conservative Christians. Okay, cool, but I think the dominant form of Christianity in America is a form of fundamentalism. It is us against the world.
And that's the only way you can control people.
It is a system of control.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now a lot of our friends are like, oh my gosh, it seems like a matter of time before marriage equality is going to be struck down, and what heartbreak.
Yeah.
That. And for what? Can't we just let people be happy?
No, of course not. No, because these ideas came out in the 80s, 90s about, you have to be afraid. This is going to crush to traditional marriage. And it was a great talking point for folks to get people to vote for them.
Yeah.
And so they can't stop it now.
Yeah.
I mean, whether they really care about it or not.
I don't the fact that you're married, who you're married to, that doesn't affect me
anybody.
At all.
Affects nobody.
At all.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
No.
It doesn't matter if you're married to 2 people or 5 people. It doesn't affect me.
Yeah.
It doesn't affect me at all.
Yeah.
What? It's just this fundamentalist, it's us against the world, and we have to defend our position by destroying you.
Well, and what I hate to hear is defending our faith. Because I'm like, that's not my faith.
Yeah. It's not my faith. It's not even historical Christianity faith.
At all.
That's just what the powerful came up with. in order to sustain your power and to get more people to vote, to create fear to people, to get them to vote for you, because the Supreme Court is everything.
Yeah.
And we will legislate our faith.
Yes.
Even though we say you can't legislate the faith. You can't change people's hearts by legislation. So then why are you giving so much effort to change legislation?
Great question.
But like I'm genuinely feeling for our friends. And I know that they feel threatened today.
I think that one of the hardest things to deal with as a human is uncertainty and a yo-yo sort of situation. I feel like we can, if a hard thing happens and we know that it's there and it's going to have an end date, or maybe it isn't, you can adjust to it. But how do you adjust to this back and forth? And you're part of an LGBTQ community. How do you adjust to not ever being sure if your rights are valid or if you're protected?
Yeah.
And not knowing that with every election, that could be in jeopardy.
Mm-hmm.
Your stability as a human being, the thing you're building your life on, is in jeopardy. And when you get something, even when a ruling happens in your favor, can you ever settle?
I don't know. Yeah.
Can you ever trust it?
I can't imagine living like that.
Yeah.
And like, I think what makes it fundamentally worse is it's not just government. This is church-driven government.
Well, and it affects people's view of you, whether you say it does or not. What the government decides does trickle down.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, that is always changing. And you're leaving your house every morning like, I'm just not really sure if I can be true about who I am today.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is that gonna hurt me or my partner or whatever? Like, I cannot imagine.
Yeah. And so, like that, I mean, but that's the state of America where we're in. That's the state of the American church, which has fueled this division, which has fueled this vitriol for people that are different. And it's the LGBTQ community, it's the immigrant community, it's Latinos, it's the black community. It's like everybody that doesn't fit into white, suburban, Christian values is like, we need to essentially eliminate their power.
Well, that got to be the standard. This is the standard of life. This is what everyone should aspire to. The suburb, the family, the children, the traditional marriage, having 2 cars, having a retirement account. Like, this is the American dream. But it's not. It's a lie. And so what I remember in my subculture growing up, which is, very much this, that traditional family was held as the pinnacle. Yeah. And this is what you go for. This is what, but that is a lie.
Yeah.
And so many people try to pursue that and maybe deny who they really are or do something that they hate or whatever, just so they can get to that place that they've been brainwashed as the thing to be, to have. And sometimes it sucks.
Yeah.
It's not worth
it.
You're totally miserable. You've cut off a part of yourself. And so, like, I think maybe younger culture is discovering this, because I feel like a lot of Gen Z and millennials are doing things very differently. But that was sort of the power that this group has had, is like, we have this. We have this, the family, the suburbs, the right way of living. And so it's real easy when you have that going through your head all the time to see anybody who's different than you as wrong.
Yeah, totally. And all that comes from Christianity.
It seems to.
Christianity's influence on politics. When I was running for public office, I talked to a lot of people, and a lot of people were like, I don't think a pastor should be running. And like, okay, I get it. And they're like, because faith shouldn't be in politics. And my answer was always like, y'all, like, if you don't address the faith issue in politics, you will never change anything.
Yeah.
Like, that's what That's what's driving one side.
Well, faith is in politics.
Faith is driving politics.
Yeah.
And what are they? So, like, there's one side who's like, our faith is driven by it. And the other side's like, we don't want it in here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're never going to win. I'm sorry. You're never going to win fully.
Yeah.
Unless you can articulate and convince and show people, like, that's not the faith that we want.
Mm-hmm.
That is, even is, like, true or good. People say, well, the Bible's done so much harm and we need to get the Bible out. I hear a lot of, like, churches even talking about that. And, like, I get it. I understand. But my conversation is always, if you don't deal with the Bible, you will never, ever get people to another place.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard work, but you're going to have to go in there and show people, like, that's not what it means.
Yeah.
And begin that process of reinterpretation for people. And like, that's the challenge that we have. But, like, you know, Christianity to me makes so much more sense in congregations and in people groups that are oppressed. Like that now Christianity begins to make sense. Now we can talk about, like, they get debt relief.
Yeah.
They get, like, the LGBT community gets debt relief.
Yeah.
Like, we've been laid on us a weight of debt that we didn't do anything. Mm-hmm. This is just we're being, and now all this debt has been put on us, social debt. We can't live in the same way that you live because we're shackled in this debt. Like the black community, the Latino community, like debt. And so, like, you understand, like, Jesus is coming and the community should be coming to relieve that debt. So you don't owe society anything anymore.
Yeah.
You can live as equals. You can live in freedom. You can live in grace. You can live in truth without owing something to people.
I think what's interesting is that a lot of times the people who are privileged, when we read the scriptures, we see ourselves as those people, but we're not. We're the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And so we almost make up oppression because we can't relate to it.
Yeah.
And so we create this, that we're living in some sort of oppression when we're totally not, and we're actually the Romans in the story.
Yeah. It's like, as a white guy, privilege, it bothers me when I see another white guy, middle, upper income, Christian, talk about you're being persecuted.
Yeah. Whew,
I'm like,
friend.
Dude, come on.
Yeah.
You are not.
Yeah.
You are not. Because somebody disagreed with you, you're persecuted? Like,
well, and so I think, we want so badly to be in that story and be the ones that need the saving. And yes, of course we do in some ways, but we're not the oppressed. Yeah.
It's like we want to make ourselves central to the story somehow. But you know what? We're not. I'm not central to the story of Jesus. I am a side piece. The central piece of Jesus' story
is the oppressed. Yeah.
That Jesus is coming to liberate. Now I've got to make a choice.
You can't name yourself in that group.
That's
because
right.
You're not in that group.
I'm not in that group.
Yeah.
I'm not oppressed in America. Now I've got a choice to make. I can come alongside Jesus as Jesus does the work of liberation.
Yeah.
And I can be part of the story.
Yep.
But the story is not about me. And it won't ever be about me.
Yeah.
It's about them, who Jesus is liberating.
Like you're totally right. We want to be the princess in the tower.
Yeah.
We want to be the one that, I had all my life was terrible and
more slices.
Totally. We're not in the tower. We're not in the tower. Like, we don't get to be part of that story, and in that way, we don't get to choose our role. You don't get to write yourself into this. You have to look at, what am I actually living?
Yeah. And that to me makes so much, that's a Christianity that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the scripture talks about. I've been thinking a lot about the book of Revelation lately because we're in the end of the world. But the end of Revelation has a lot of comfort. It says this at the end, after everything is over, and it says, "Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and earth had passed away. There was no longer any sea. I saw a holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride, beautifully dressed. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, 'Look, God's dwelling place is now among the people, and God will dwell with them. They will be the people of God, and God will be with them, and wipe away every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the old order of things has passed away. The one who is seated on the throne said, I am making everything new. So, like, I read that this morning, and in some sense, I want to give you all a sense of hope that, yes, this is not good. We're not in a good place. Bad things are happening. We feel threatened. And I can't fix it, but I will try to do what I can to alleviate that pain, to speak up against bad Christianity. But the end of the story is this, that God will have the last word, and God will make all things new. And so for me, that I want to be part of that newness. I want to be part of God making everything new for folks, for you all, for oppressed communities. I want to be part of that debt relief, that liberation. And so hang in there. It's a hard time, and I think this week will be difficult in many ways. I hope that things get better. I hope that we can look up in a couple weeks and say, okay, we feel better.
We made it through.
We made it through. Things didn't end. So I hope that's the case. But for me, these are the words I hold on to. Look, God's making everything new, and that day will come. It might not be tomorrow nor next Tuesday, but it will come. It will come. So stay strong. Hold on to love. Don't let go of the things that make you you. Be who you are. And remember, like what we're seeing, this is not Christianity that Jesus brought. This is something else. This is Empire Christianity, which is, let's create those communities of hope and grace for one another, and hope that we can be. Yeah, that's it. That's all I got today. Hope you all have a great Tuesday, and good luck this week. May the odds be in your favor.
Maybe stay off Facebook. You don't need to. You just don't need to. You can just shut off the news, right? It's not going to change anything for you. Just shut off the news, shut off Facebook, spend more time with talking to your friends, talking to your family, reading a book, a not political book. Just like take a little break from the madness. You don't have to be part of it. You can step away from it.
And offer some people some love around you.
Yeah,
give
totally.
Love, give compassion, and that always helps us to cope with the world in a better way. So we love y'all. Thank you for watching and tuning in. And if you need a prayer or anything,